What be wrong with you being in the shop, though?
Here, let me get this off of there.
Why wouldn't you say anything?
Okay, well, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
If I can make a comment.
What?
Yeah, no,
I got a couple of comments. Why is it so
Hey, he's yelling at us.
Oh, time to go. Look this way.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Sunanda Corrado, co-hosting the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford, coming to you live at 10 o'clock every Thursday morning on Wjzz Cool TV, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public School superintendent, a former world-class athlete and conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship crack coach, poet, newspaper columnist, longtime civil rights crusader, and the author of 6 Detroit-oriented books: The Poet Emperor of Earth, What Old Men Know, Creative Insubordination, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run, and another forthcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. He also has a show on WCHB AM 1340, Detroit's gospel station, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. That's Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. His books are available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or just by calling the Good Doctor at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. John Telford has been called a legend and also a lightning rod for controversy. He has received the Detroit City Council's Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year in 2001, and a Detroit track was named for him. His website is www.alifeontherun.com, and his email address is drjohntelford@aol.com. That's Dr. drjohntelford@aol.com. Now, without further ado, I present to you that crusading old native Detroiter, Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda Corrado, that PhD from Columbia University, who is an anthropologist by training. Dr. Corrado has been teaching at Wayne County Community College District for over 10 years, and she's currently a researcher for the Detroit Equity Action Lab that's housed in the Wayne State University Law School. And she is founder and CEO of Education by Design. So thank you for that introduction, my co-host, Dr. Sunanda Corrado. We have in the studio today a young lady named Kaylin Render, and she has written a paper that I want to see used all over the state of Michigan for reforming police departments and preventing them from brutalizing black people, particularly black men. So we're going to be interviewing her. We also have Gloria Cunningham, my trusty right hand in my other show, WCHB AM 1340, in the studio today. And Gloria has been taking pictures, and she probably will be doing some commenting too. But before we introduce Kaylin, we are going to have a couple of announcements on my part. Because political instability is fueling a mounting humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Since the beginning of the year, hundreds of thousands of Afghans have been displaced, and the situation is worsening by the day. Unfortunately, those attempting to flee the violence must confront stark challenges. Borders are closed. Chaos and uncertainty reign across the country, and thousands who should be eligible to apply for U.S. Special Immigrant Visas, that's SIVS, Special Immigrant Visas, are at the mercy of a painfully slow, bureaucratic process. Even as the number of SIV applicants and applications processed increases and evacuations begin, they've just begun, large numbers of Afghans face violent retaliation. Human rights advocates, especially women and girls, journalists, members of religious and ethnic minorities, and many others are in grave danger, and this should not be happening. You know,
And this is really a moral responsibility on the part of the United States.
got
They
that right.
they had several Afghanistani families invest in U.S. policies and U.S. governance, and now they stand on a death list.
That's right.
And the U.S. isn't doing anything to help those who facilitated U.S.
Well, it's
interests.
doing something, but it's not doing enough. As
Oh,
Americans,
I don't know about that.
well, we have a moral responsibility. I think you'll agree with this, Sunanda.
Can't
we have
fly
a moral
away like we did in Cambodia.
We have a We have a moral responsibility to support those who are fleeing persecution in Afghanistan.
We have a moral
and
responsibility to support those who supported us.
Absolutely, and we've got to get them all out of here. We got to bring them here to America, and we've got to find accommodations for them. They supported us. Now we have to support them. If we don't, we are shirking our moral responsibility. Okay, another issue. COVID numbers continue to rise as the Delta variant surges among the unvaccinated. Meanwhile, a new United Nations climate report says that humans are unquestionably responsible for global warming.
Aren't we responsible for everything we know about?
Well, let's make no mistake about that. So what do you think? Are we all doomed? Well, we could crush Delta in this country if everyone would just vax up and wear masks.
We got to put a caveat to this, Dr. Telford, because the Johnson & Johnson vaccine does not work against the Delta variant. Feel free to Google this stuff, okay? The Johnson & Johnson vaccine does not work. They're questioning Moderna. It's coming down to one brand name, and those who
What's
had
that
the
one brand
Pfizer,
name? What's that
it's
one brand
Pfizer,
name?
and after
That's
two
right.
shots, it's about 44% effective against the Delta variant. After the
it's
third
about-
booster shot, it's over 67%.
That's
Yes,
right.
but it does not stop you from being a carrier. So if you're vaccinated, it doesn't mean you go around with your bikini on. You got to cover up.
Okay, but we also need pharmaceutical companies to accept a global patent waiver. Anybody ever think
Pfizer.
about that?
Pfizer just renamed itself from Pfizer to Lucky something, like Community Immu something, because the branding of it.
We need a global
They live in Grosse Pointe too, by the way.
We need a global patent waiver so poor nations can manufacture their own vaccines. Other future variants are inevitable if we don't
Let
do that.
Iran do it.
And as for climate change, we can't undo the damage, but we might have time to mitigate some of the effects if we phase out fossil fuels as soon as possible. And I know this is a radical suggestion, but maybe we should prioritize people's lives over corporate greed. You think that's a
Philosophy.
radical suggestion? I'm sure the corporations will say that it is. Millions of blind Retrumplicon cultists think that melting polar ice caps, floods, and droughts, all caused by global warming, are a small price to pay for, quote, freedom. Freedom. They also think that
Freedom
an
too,
endless
freedom.
pandemic is a small price to pay for freedom. Freedom for what? Freedom to die? Okay, I'm not gonna, because we've got Kaylin here, and I want to have enough time.
Real ideas of freedom.
And
Community.
And Kaylin, I kind of apologize for the altercation I had with UKIC President Doc Holbrook. He at that time seemed to have kind of lost his mind, but he's recovering it again, and I think we're going to have him on this show at a later time, hopefully with you. We'll be able to have you back. I'm not going to tee off on Doc the way I did last week, because he seems to be coming around now. But
He was pressured.
Yeah.
He was stressed that day.
Yeah, he was.
Well,
He's an amazing
yeah,
man.
there was a lady too that I think had him a little scared, who's on the board, and it was, Doc and I have been friends for many years.
And I had never seen you quiet for that long of a time.
Well, you know,
just
I
sat at
I
the
had
table
I had
and didn't
warned,
say a word for about 30 minutes.
but yeah, but I warned him, Doc. I got to introduce these folks if you don't. So I did get up and he knew why I had to interrupt him. But anyway, we have got Kaylin Render on the show right now, and she has got a magnificent plan that we're hoping that UCAC not only will endorse but will adopt and adapt to the mission statement that Doc Holbrook and I wrote for the United Communities Action Coalition, because there have been 32,542 killings by police in the United States since the year 2000. Caitlin, I don't know if you're even familiar with those stats, but most of those killings have been of people of color. And this is why I wanted to be an executive board member of United Communities Action Coalition, because the mission statement is going to combat this, and your paper is the solution to this for police departments. So I've been knowing this young lady since she was 12 years old. Man, didn't that long?
Well, no, I
Long
think
time.
a little bit before that.
Even yeah, I remember. Yeah, right. Yeah. She mentioned she wants to tell a mini story of me before we get into it. You said you wanted to tell a story.
Yeah, so I don't really remember meeting Dr. Telford, and I do want to thank you so much for having me on your show. I really do appreciate
I
it.
remember meeting you.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Well,
I was
we were
probably
at
young.
Finney.
I was like
we
10.
were at Finney, so.
You were a little kid.
But I do
They
remember
saw
you,
all
though.
of you.
I remember Dr.
yeah,
Telford for
yeah.
sure being just, of course you were white in a black school, so I thought, oh, this guy has to be a pushover. But getting to know you and knowing your power and your voice and how people loved you at Finney, I just learned to love you as well. And I thank you for just being awesome all the time, right?
I had a mean reputation among the kids at Finney.
Did you?
Yeah, because sometimes I beat them. You know, I mean, I actually
With
did.
love.
And that's why they respected you. Yeah.
Well, you know, that
That's-
school was, I mean, it was off the hook.
Oh,
You know, Finney was they used it as a dumping ground. I had put the
It's tough.
principal there when I was his executive director. He had been a principal at Western, and I put him. That was Al Ward, wonderful principal. In fact, he told me later didn't know whether to kiss me or hit me, you know, for putting him in that school, because it was a total dumping ground. And no sooner would we get it under control, you know, but they'd send us 50 ATs and we'd be in trouble again. You remember
Yeah,
that?
he was a great administrator, and they lost a really good person when they didn't renew his physical education contract to be the leader of that. And he worked 24/7, and he was very hurt by that. But he's gone on to some better things, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I'm in touch with him, you know, every couple of weeks. But Al Ward was a great educator, and he got his jaw broken in a fight there.
I do remember that.
When I was I wasn't there to back him up because I was doing the damn MEEP test with one of the lady assistant principals. I forget her name.
Everyday life.
But you know, no sooner would we get that school under control than 60 ITs, that's administrative transfers, would come in from Kettering and Pershing and Denby and wherever they got kicked out of.
And what they renamed Finney to now?
They've called it
East
they
English
tore
Village.
Finney down and called the new school East English Village.
Trying to draw that community in,
Yes.
because they said if we name the school that, then more people from that
Oh, so-
community will come.
They're
But
not
that didn't
going
work.
So
there.
Scottish,
No, that
the
didn't
people
work.
don't like Scottish abolitionists or something?
Well, the Finney family were Scottish abolitionists, and the name of that school needs to be changed back to Finney.
Yeah,
You know,
like
the-
Heck, yeah.
Northwestern made sure when they changed it to something preparatory that they kept the Northwestern name on that building. So it's the Prep Academy at Northwestern.
Oh,
And
we
they
need
have
a
an
commercial. I'm sorry,
excellent-
honey. We
okay.
need a commercial. We need a commercial. Gotta keep time on the commercial. Go ahead, do your commercial.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us. And thank you for watching WJZZ TV, the coolest station in the world. And do not forget, we got the St. Regis Jazz Series. It's every Thursday. Today's the 5th concert. Next week's the 6th and the last. Amazing, amazing, amazing artists coming through. I believe it's at 6 o'clock tonight. Please come on through. I believe that the tickets are still sold on Eventbrite. Please look it up.
How much the
Just
tickets
an
cost?
amazing
You know
treasure.
what do they cost?
35 if you wanna come and have a good time. 50 if you wanna have a romantic time.
Oh, okay.
50 for a
$50,
table
oh,
for
man.
two. 35 if you're
That's
there
at
for the
St.
horns.
Regis? St. Regis
It's at the
Hotel?
St. Regis Ballroom. It's been an amazing. I mean, there are people from all walks of life in the city. They kind of get you to come out.
Do they have food? They have food?
Oh, they got food. Great. I mean, one week it was amazing vegan. The next week it was amazing Swedish meatballs. I mean, there's food and there's a
do you
cash
have to-
bar. Thank God.
Oh, you have to pay extra cash to drink.
Oh well, I think that should be a moral thing.
What about food? Do you have to
No,
pay
no,
extra
no.
for the food?
The food is free. The
Food's
food
free.
is free, and
okay.
it's an amazing evening. It's an amazing way to set off Thursday evening.
Well, anyway, we have Kaylin Render here, and we are so delighted and honored to have her here because she has got this plan. Did you bring a copy of your plan, Kaylin?
I didn't, but I do know it like the back of
I'm
my
sure
hand.
you know
so.
it like the back of your hand.
She
Okay.
presented
So, yeah, I
it
could
formally and gave it to several of us academics. Remember at the yacht club?
Yeah,
so
she sure did.
It was
I
an
have it at
amazing
home. I
plan.
have a copy
It's
at home.
ingenious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because as an anthropologist, I gotta say your plan is ingenious. It's from the heart to the hand, not the head to the hand.
Absolutely.
And that's where the change really happens. When
Absolutely.
people experience the mass humanity of each other. It's not
Absolutely.
something that's taught, it's something that's experienced, which is why I'm so in love with your
Absolutely.
plan.
Well,
I agree.
Kaylin, before we get into your plan, I would like you to tell our watchers a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as he said, my name is Kaylin Render. I am the daughter of the amazing Gloria Cunningham. You heard her a
Indeed.
little bit
Who's sitting
before.
right here.
Yeah, she's a former educator and definitely gave me my teaching skills and abilities. I went to Golightly Educational Center and also Cass Technical High School. I am an alum there.
No wonder, Cass Tech.
Aztec
I
and
always
Detroit.
say, oh, that school.
Yes, and then while I was in Cass Tech, I was a cadet in the Junior Police Cadet Program. That program, it definitely bridged the gap between senior citizens and youth in the community. So that was a great program.
Yes.
Of course, it aligned with my values and, my moral compass as well.
Yes.
And after that, I went to Western Michigan University. And in the summers, I came back to Detroit and worked as a cadet supervisor in the same program.
For 5 years, right?
Yep, 5
5
consecutive
years
summers.
you were a cadet supervisor.
Absolutely, yep.
So this
So what's a cadet?
A cadet. So a cadet is
police cadet. Police cadet.
Yeah, it's a high schooler from the age of 14 to 17 years old. They usually come from backgrounds that are poverty stricken, and they get to work in this program and earn a couple dollars over the summertime, and also have some fun with senior citizens in recreation departments, and also senior citizen homes and complexes and stuff like that.
Yeah, their focus is to provide service. You're serving
Right.
the community.
Absolutely.
Do you,
It's kind of like what AmeriCorps is trying to do.
Kaylin,
I
do
think
you,
so,
guys
similarly,
do.
yes.
do you know how many of your police cadets that you supervised became police? Actually, became parts of a police department, officers?
Yeah, I'm not super sure, but I feel like my cadets, I do follow some of them on Instagram, and
Okay.
they're more so in college right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're more so in college, like right now, yeah.
When was the
But-
last year you did this?
The last year was 2018, I believe.
Okay, so it's recent.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you a couple of questions
Yes.
about this. What is the cultural inclusion training you think that police departments should institute?
Yes, so the cultural inclusion training, that is the program Dr. Telford was talking about that we need to institute in the police department across the nation. Now, the cultural inclusion training is an annual 50-hour training for current and future officers. This program or training would be mandated, of course, to keep their badge and also their gun. This training will help acclimate officers and recruits to different cultures and different communities across the nation. But of course, we could start in Michigan, as Dr. Telford suggested. That would be a great place to start. The training will help them adapt to the specific behaviors and languages of the community outside of their state. So the training, in a nutshell, will help connect people from different walks of life. It'll help people understand, their stories. It'll help us connect with our hearts, as you said, instead of our minds. I feel like the cultural inclusion training will help hopefully demolish racism in the police department. Because I feel like racism, the reason why people are racist, to me personally, of course it's inherited. I think ignorance and then fear, right? So I feel like connecting with one another, of course, gives that racist person or that racist police officer or prejudiced police officer information, so they can then draw a different conclusion around the person or people that they decide to police. So, yeah, that's the training.
What was interesting is you were talking to us when you first came into the green room,
Yes.
and you were saying that a lot of police officers often come from a military background, so it's hard for them to kind of transition into the new role expectations in civil service. They're coming back from hostile environments, and they're coming back to be of service to the people within the community.
Absolutely.
And so what are the kind of trainings that you have to do that you actually explain, and when they meet people, they realize that this isn't a hostile environment, that this isn't a war environment, that you're not replicating your role when you were, so to speak, out of the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're actually coming back with a lot of PTSD, a lot of distrust in human nature in general, right? And then another interesting thing because you brought up so much stuff, girlfriend, another interesting thing that you brought up is that Detroit often seems to be a stepping stone into other communities, so people don't look at serving in Detroit as a lifetime.
Yeah, we train them here, and then
then they go into suburbs and buy a
They go
nice
from hard to
house,
easy.
And they make
Yeah.
more money that way.
Yeah.
So there are kind of like stuff in the structure that keep police from actually meeting the people that they serve.
Absolutely. And I feel like it starts with the mindset. So as you said, the racist mindset is one thing, right? But of course, that militant background, that's another mindset, right? And I feel like both of them definitely help or prevail the police brutality issue. So when it comes to the militant background, so I have a friend, and he was in the military, and he said that they're trained to kill in the military, of course. But when you become when you become a police officer, you're really serving the community. It's a very, very humble job in my eyes, right? You're helping the community. You're supposed to help grow the community, cultivate the community.
Protect and serve.
Right,
Protect and serve.
Absolutely right. So in the cultural inclusion training, if it is instituted in this community or around the United States, the job of that officer when they do come to Detroit is to solely integrate in the community. So I would love them to possibly partner with a grocery store in the community, work at the grocery store, meet the people in the community, have conversations, right? And see that our values align, right? I'm a human just like
you got to get
you're
back to
human.
the beat cup.
Beat
Actually
cup.
have, you know what I'm talking about.
I was on that
Gloria
same
knows
point.
what
I
I'm
was
talking
thinking
about. Go
through
ahead.
that.
Fill me in.
I've been delivering. I've been in the house I'm in now for 33 years, and I'm just getting to know my neighbors in a 12 by 6 blocks radius because I'm passing out food to them.
Yeah.
So you can be right 3 doors down, and you don't know anything about each other. We don't come together. We don't bond. We don't support each other. We don't act as a community. In this particular community I'm in, if something's going on with the street or with speeding, they'll come together for that, and they'll make phone calls, and they'll try to make things happen. But it's not enough togetherness. And then I live outside of Dearborn, and then so if I don't know my neighbors 3 doors down, then we don't know that culture 4 blocks down, and then they have different things that they live by that we need to know, because just living near them doesn't make us know that. So the beat cop was the guy that walked through the neighborhood.
That's
that was
right.
connected to the people.
That's right.
Okay.
And it's not enough of that going on. You're seeing some little glimpses of it on the news when they do a special thing in a community, but it's not universal. It's not throughout the whole system. So we don't know about the Middle Easterners that much. We just know one or two things, that they're close knit and they support each other, and we have difficulty doing that in our neighborhood.
You're talking about the black community having difficulty unifying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
sad about that we need to be a little better than that, especially the route we had to take to get to where we are now.
Well, and I guess, I'm digressing a little bit, but when I came back to Detroit, I was an administrator in the suburbs, and I was, hiring black teachers and principals and directors, and I was in such a high position they couldn't stop me from doing it. There were members in the community that didn't particularly care for it, particularly in Rochester. But when I came back to Detroit, I figured, I'm coming home, and I'm not going to have any trouble, because I've been advocating for black rights my whole life. How wrong I was. I found out very quickly that I was dealing with a form of classism. I mean, there were black folks in power who were taking corporate money and who were exploiting poor black kids. So that was a real shock for me, but I eventually had to deal with that battle. I'm still dealing with it, really, but
I kind of want to springboard a question off of you, Dr. Telford, and you, Gloria, and then back to you in terms of your response to it. More of a historic thing, because we were talking about beat cops. So we're kind of talking about like the old ways of doing things, but Detroit is also completely original, right? We have block clubs. And I feel like the renaming of neighborhoods and the redistricting of neighborhoods erase block clubs and voluntary efforts and neighbors knowing each other.
it takes away our sense of community.
And
I
it's
don't know if
never
it's
been
deliberate or not,
researched.
but that's what they're doing.
And
When
it's
they
never
changed the
been
name of Finney High
researched.
School-
What happened,
can
what
agree.
block
Yeah,
clubs
okay.
did, and what happened to block clubs has never been researched. The apex of the crisis was that 300-man thing. Remember? So I was kind of wondering if you could revisit, like, that we do have these ideas and that we do have this infrastructure to bring about your program that you're talking about. That this is already part of our history in a way. Community and policing, especially with Coleman Young coming in, the first thing he did was integrate the police.
He sure did.
You know what I'm saying? So I was kind of
He
wondering,
integrated clubs.
Yeah.
He integrated the Detroit
like
Yacht
where
Club.
we
I'm a member,
started
he-
and then where we came to. Because
he
remember,
forced them to
and
integrate.
through the 90s, we became the murder capital, which I think is kind of like a defunct kind of naming. I thought it was kind of ridiculous. You know what I mean? And to all of a sudden, like a claiming of the
Well,
comeback.
let's face it, we have been the murder capital. I mean, that's an infamous title, but
you know
we
what?
earned it.
Along with that was the and you remember all these titles coming up with the poetry, abandoned city, abandoned automobiles. We were known as the abandoned city, but we weren't abandoned by people. We're abandoned by the law. We were abandoned by Lansing. We're abandoned by D.C.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Block clubs maintain the order.
Anyway,
right?
let me, we've got Kaylin here, and I want to talk a little bit. I want her to talk a little bit about a little bit more about her program. Kaylin, how did you come up with the idea for this training?
Yeah, absolutely. So
What sparked it too? Why that? You didn't go to school for policing or any of that.
Yeah.
So she's a fashion design expert by her degree, but she has many levels of other things she knows how to do.
Absolutely.
But something came to her emotions to make her even want to create this proposal.
yeah.
Now, Kaylin, before you answer that, we have to go to the second commercial. So let's do the second commercial. Let's get it out of the way.
1 minute, 20 seconds
No, get it
early.
out of the way,
You
'cause I
are
don't wanna
watching
interrupt
the.
you. Go ahead.
You are watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe, not just to this program, but the various other programs that this, one of the few black media platforms still available in Detroit, provides for you. And thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
On the John Telford Detroit Show, co-hosted by Dr. Sunanda Corrado.
And
our-
we have Kaylin Redner.
And our guest today
And
is
the
Kaylin
glorious
Render.
Gloria Cunningham.
And the glorious Gloria Cunningham.
The voice of liquid gold.
You know, Gloria, I think I need to have you do a voiceover.
Please.
For
You can't let me do
for
this.
our
You can't let me
introduction,
do this.
because sometimes, her her phone, you know, is
And then I swear
the William
she
Tell
left
Overture was
phones.
over before she was over this time.
Yeah.
You know, so we've got to
I know nothing about production.
we got to get that coordinated. But anyway, to repeat my question to Kaylin, how did you come up with the idea for this training?
Yes, so I want to start off by saying that I love being black. I don't know if that's a little edgy to say, but I'm not here to offend anyone. I have a sense of.
Well, I don't love being white. I'll tell you right now.
You don't?
No, I don't.
You should.
I know I should.
It's a big part of your identity.
Everybody
darling.
says, "Oh, you're in such great privilege." Well, you know what? I grew up on 16th Street.
Do you love being a man?
I spent. That I do. Yeah. I definitely love being a man. But I don't love being a white man sometimes.
Well, you know, you've heard the phrase "black don't crack."
That's right. And I came up on 16th Street in McGraw, and it was an integrated neighborhood, but it was not the easiest place to grow up. But anyway.
Yeah. So
go
I
ahead,
definitely
please.
have black pride that was cultivated by living in Detroit. I do love Detroit simply because when I grew up, I got to see people that looked like me in power. So my
Yeah, right.
principal was black. You know, people that exuded power and exuded confidence.
Who was your principal?
Lisa Phillips and Cass, and then
She's still there, yeah.
Miss Davis.
She's done incredible
Yeah,
things
Mr.
for Cass.
No, Lisa Phillips is
Phillips has done
great,
incredible
and I don't just say this because her husband's a close friend of mine. Her husband was a great runner, you know. Her husband was an All-American half-miler at...
Was she the
at-
one who? Was she
Go
the
ahead.
one who brought the cadet program in?
No.
No, it's been there probably longer
Yeah, no.
than that. But she, her husband, Ronnie Phillips, you know, was principal of Cody High School.
Yeah, yeah.
And he also, long before that, he was a star half-miler at Denby High School, and then he went to the University of Illinois, and he teamed with a kid that I coached at Finney. That was Kenny House, and they were kicking butt all over the
Yeah,
country.
I was in a African American history group with them when I was over at Denby in the 80s. So, and Chuck Lewis was one of the leads of that, and he passed away in 17. So
Yeah,
I've
Chuck
been
Lewis,
knowing
good
her
man, yeah,
when she was
great
at
coach.
Oak Park and when she was in Detroit. So I've been knowing her quite a long time.
Well, her husband Ronnie was an All-America half-miler.
Yeah, he was a good guy. He's a good guy.
I think of all the half-milers who ever came out of the city of Detroit, I think he still has the fastest time. Ron Phillips.
Oh.
Yeah, he was something else. But anyway, we
Well,
keep
yeah.
digressing. Don't get me started.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna say.
We'll call you later,
But
Kevin.
no, yeah. But no, you said
Okay,
how
but
did
you're talking about how you came
how
up
you
with
came
the
up with
idea
this
for this
inspiration.
training.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
We're gonna all
So-
stop. I'm gonna hold your hand, Doc. We're
Yeah,
gonna stop.
All right.
Yes. So
Okay.
yes, I do have a lot of black pride, and Detroit helped with that definitely. But so I love seeing black people succeed, black people help others, just the community grow in general. So I feel like 2020 gave everybody the ability to stop and wait and watch, right? And of course it was a blessing for some people, but then tragedy for other people. But in my case, it was a blessing, and I just sat and watched media and what was going on. And of course I already knew what was going on, but it was nice to see the reaction. So when George Floyd was murdered, it wasn't a surprise, sadly, to me, but the reaction to George Floyd's murder, that was a surprise, right? It was super exciting to see people rally around that police brutality cause, in a sense. So then people started proposing ideas. So I think the Black Lives Matter movement started proposing ideas. Defund the police, you know, do all of these things. But I don't think you should take money away from people. I mean, granted, police officers shouldn't make six figures or $1 million. I don't think that's the job, you know, for them. But I do believe that taking money away might not help the situation, right? So then I started thinking, okay, Kaylin, how can you help racism? What started racism? Why are people racism? And of course, slavery did damage when it comes to the mindsets of, you know, some white people and the mindsets of some black people, and some people couldn't recover from it. So of course, I feel like racism, of course I said previously, it's inherited. Of course it's created from ignorance, us not learning about one another or caring about one another. And then of course fear, when it comes to fear, right? And I do remember, I went to Western Michigan University. It is a PWI, predominantly white institution. And I I don't know if that's a new term or not, but that's what we call it. So yeah, but I do remember my first week there. I went up there and moved in, cried when my mom left, and the whole thing. But after that, packed my room up, and as I was walking to class, it really just hit me like it's a lot of white people out here. Okay, like
a lot of trees.
Right, and
Come to the
being
Detroit Yacht Club. You want to see a lot of
and being that I'm from Detroit, all I saw was black people. Like I was the majority in Detroit, so when I was placed in a predominantly white institution and I was the minority, then that fear kind of crept in, me being uncomfortable crept in. But then again, I could have used that mindset for evil, right? Oh, white people are this, white people are that. But I decided to cultivate that into power, cultivate that into curiosity. And of course, I made some wonderful friends at Western that are Caucasian, and they're amazing. She's getting married, I think, next year. So yeah, and I'm going to the wedding and everything. So it starts with knowledge, and I feel like knowledge, of course, is power. And and if we can give police officers that same feeling that I received when I was on that white campus, I feel like that's when the mindsets could shift. So that's why I started thinking, okay, how can we give that officer that same feeling? If we take them away from what they're comfortable, take them away from their community that they were born and raised in. So they probably saw all, white people growing up, just like I saw all black people growing up. And I was placed in a whole different community that didn't look like me, didn't sound like me. When I used slang, people were looking at me like, wait, what? Right? So if we did that to police officers, that white police officer, and put them in a black neighborhood, of course they're going to become a little bit uncomfortable, maybe a little bit fearful. But then in the cultural inclusion training, hopefully we can teach them how to use that for good and not dominance.
Can you talk specifically about the cultural inclusion training?
Right, yes.
Give
so like
our
specifics.
watchers a little
details.
idea. Yeah.
Right. So I just want to paint like an example. So say Officer Jack, right? Officer Jack is from Kansas, right? He grew up in an all-white community, and he might be a little prejudiced against black people, right? So Officer Jack would then be placed in Detroit, DPD, right? He will be hosted by Officer Johnson for a week in Detroit, and Officer Johnson will then help him acclimate to Detroit's community, would take him around, would have conversations about race. Officer Jack would probably work at Adams Bustle Recreation Center and, help in the gym, right? So he can then play ball with the little black kids, have conversations with their parents about possibly growing up in Detroit. He can maybe have dinner with Officer Johnson's family to talk more about race relations in the city, and hopefully him doing that consistently for that week, he can then create papers and reports and just
have a little soul food.
just something a little different.
This is almost like an international student experience.
Right.
Where you have a host police officer.
Study abroad. Yes, a study abroad.
Because each
Absolutely.
city really is abroad from the other, right?
Okay, let's flip
really
the
different
script.
place.
Let's flip the script.
Yes.
Let's talk about, instead of Detroit,
Right.
let's talk about Warren. Now, let me give you a little
Okay.
background on Warren. And that's
Right,
one of
right,
the
right, right.
reasons why
Right.
I wanted the mayor of Warren to have a chance to have a dialogue with you on the 30th of July at the yacht club, but then he got in that accident and couldn't come, and he couldn't take his police chief either. And Doc, was upset that I asked. Well, anyway, I don't go into that, but I wanted you to have an opportunity to interact
Okay.
with Mayor Fouts, and we're still going to make that happen.
Okay.
We're going to bring Mayor Fouts on this program at another time.
Right. Perfect.
But Warren, they had a code in Warren, and I think I told you a little bit about that before we went on the show. The code was BPIWAD, and I found out about that code when I was deputy superintendent in Rochester, and when I was hiring, all the black principals and teachers and directors in Rochester, because I was a one-man affirmative action machine, and that code, and I got in a lot of trouble for it. They shut my house up, and that's a whole different story, but that code is BPIWAD, and that stands for Black Person in Warren After Dark. Okay, Now, it's not quite that bad in Warren now, and there's a progressive mayor there that they're doing everything they can to remove. But we want to defend that man and make sure that he stays there. That's Jim Fouts, Mayor Jim Fouts. But okay, now you've got this program in Warren. So let's flip the script.
Right.
What do you do there?
In Warren. So
In Warren.
hearing that acronym, it's terrible, and of course, it proves the racism that was clearly in Warren, right? But I do feel like it's really hard to be racist in Detroit, right?
Right.
Because if you could be racist, you can try to be racist, but I feel like it will start a revolutionary war kind of in Detroit, right? Because
Amen.
there's so many black people.
Well, 85% of us, well, not us, I'm white.
No,
85%
honorary.
black.
You're honorary.
Honorary.
Yeah, honorary member. Yeah, honorary
And
member.
we try to do it in Detroit, they're in trouble.
Right.
But
Warren.
Warren.
So we will take that police officer from Warren and put him in Detroit, right? But since it's so close, he probably doesn't have to get a hotel room and fly and do all those things. But he will come to the city of Detroit and do the exact same thing. So work at Adams Bustle maybe, or work at a gas station, partner with a gas station, and just learn the community. That Officer Johnson, will still host the officer from Warren. It will just be in a closer proximity.
Then he goes back to Warren, and
so 50 hours
now
a week,
it's
roughly.
like two different programs that she was talking about. One was city community, and now we're talking about city to city, right?
Right.
Police exchanges. Yeah.
Right. So at first I was imagining this program being nationwide because Detroit really doesn't have a problem with police brutality, but a lot of other places
they have a minor problem with
yeah,
it.
a little bit.
Some rare cops sometimes
Right.
have
Now,
committed
So
it.
at first I was talking more so about nation, but then you brought it down to a state level.
I want to talk about Warren and Grosse Pointe,
Right.
and places like that.
Right,
Dearborn. How would your program function?
Right.
And let's just stick with Warren. Let's use that.
Yeah,
for
and we could
example,
bring it down
because
to the
it's
state
probably been
level.
the most racist community in the state. So
Okay.
let's stick with Warren.
And then
Okay,
how,
yes.
is this during training or beyond the academy? Or is it just all the police officers in the whole force? If there's been some kind of inkling of
Right.
racism, should they just target them first, and then how much of this should we put into the academy itself?
Yeah, I do feel like that this probably shouldn't be put in the academy simply because I feel like the academy, a couple of my friends just went through the academy and they really just try to pump them out into the police force to make sure that they're in the police force and we need to use you, right? So if making it its own entity and its own training, then we have time to actually like cultivate the mind over that week, that 50 hours. But when you bring it down to a state level, when you say Warren, it could definitely happen that way. But it would look like 50 hours, a 9 to 5. That's Monday through Friday, right? That's 40 hours, and the additional hours can be like I guess the lunch after and the dinners with the people in the community, and maybe hanging at a park with people. That could be the additional hours.
I would make that part of their hours. I would make that part of their
can.
professional hours, getting to know the community. That
No, it
should,
has to be.
That should be part of the police department's obligation.
It has to be.
They
yeah.
just shouldn't put a young man in there not knowing his head from his tail.
No. It has to be.
They should
Yeah.
pay
So,
Not
yeah.
us.
But I feel like, once that I do want the police officers.
Then they'll know it's valuable. If they're getting paid by the police department to get to know us,
Right.
then they know that's part of their job.
Right, and I do want that police officer to actually work in that community as well, because working and serving, they go hand in hand. So if you're working for that black owner or working for the recreation department to serve black children, I want that to kind of help cultivate the mindset as well, them working. So maybe 9 to 5 they work at Adams Bustle Recreation Department, and then 5 to 7 they have to have dinner with their host officer, Dr. Johnson, his black family or black friends, or even other black police officers. They sit down at a restaurant, have a round table, and of course Dr. Johnson, he's going to be instructed by the program leads, you can say, about what to ask, how you should have this hard conversation with this white police officer, see where his mindset is, and see if he is learning from the program, right? And then after I guess 9 to 7, since it's Warren to Detroit, he could probably go home, sleep, and then come back to Detroit and do it all again the
Okay.
next day.
You know, I was a police liaison from Wjzz and Hamtramck for a bit when Bangladeshis in Yemen, and we had the sudden explosion of ethnic minorities in Hamtramck. Because the actual seeds for domestic violence and how you deal with it in different cultures is variable, right? Because in certain immigrant communities, women don't answer the door, etc. There's just so much to what you're talking about in terms of especially because when people are talking about defunding the police, can't they deal with these
I totally
sociological
oppose that,
problems? You don't know if you're
Yeah,
coming into a real problem until you're at the door, right? And so this familiarity that you're talking about actually gives them confidence, right? To actually come to the door. Now my thing is like the city to city thing is ambitious. And if you don't mind, I do want to talk about Warren, but I want to talk about Warren in terms of how this can grow from Detroit.
Okay, before you talk about it, do your third commercial.
Yes. And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, and comment and subscribe. And thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And I'll see you at St. Regis tonight at 6 for the Jazz Series.
Okay, and you were saying before that?
Oh, so I was saying because Detroit is so rudimentary to change, and Detroit is really where you galvanize these like ideas of freedom and being free and black at the same time. This is really the source for where the training can go into other cities. So how were you thinking about seeding it here specifically? Because in your background, you're talking about service. When you were in your cadet experience, it was all about service and how that brought people together and that whole intergenerational thing.
Absolutely,
You know,
yeah.
because I find like it's hard for adults to talk to each other about race, but it's cool for kids and adults to talk to each other about race.
Right, absolutely. And I don't really know the reason about that, but I do see that it being a great idea if we do start here at home, simply because sometimes you have to prove to people that it works, right? So if we do start small, if we do start in the state, it's really easy to propose it to California or propose it to Kentucky or Alabama, right? If we say like, look, it works, right?
Yeah.
Although we don't have a huge problem, you know, we have some problems, we don't have a huge problem, we could definitely say, look, it works. We think you guys should implement it to stop the killings here, right?
Well, for one thing,
So
our police department now is predominantly black. You know, and
good to know.
that solves much of the problem.
That makes
right
us
there.
part of the solution.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just as simple as that. Just having the conversation and bringing it to the people that can actually put it in motion, right? I'm not a politician, so I don't really know who to talk to and how to get it there, but I'm pretty sure it can be.
But you're
you know,
saying that
put-
we're a peculiar enough city with enough pride and history to propose a program that no other city can propose that can therefore go on and affect the rest of the state. Because we have the autonomy to actually bring people in and have a cathartic experience in the city, no matter
Absolutely.
where you're coming from, the
Absolutely.
UP or Warren.
And I do feel like
that's
Detroit
right.
is so special because it has really high highs and low lows. We have Fortune 500 companies, but then of course we have, you know, the abandoned neighborhoods that probably only have 2 houses on the block, and both of the houses are like grandma houses. Oh, that's my grandma house, right? We have pride in those 2 houses that are on the block, you know,
Yeah.
very much, a lot of pride. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can't agree with you on that.
Well, and you know, this is supposed to be a poetry program, so I have to get a couple of poems in, and I either do, well, I'm going to do a kind of a political poem. Okay, I call this poem a modern parallel. Nero played his fiddle, meanwhile most of Rome incinerated. Trump played on his golf course, while America disintegrated. And you know, America has also incinerated. It's incinerating on the West Coast right now. Okay, here's another short one, and I'll probably do a couple more if we have time toward the end. But this one is called, and I probably couldn't do this one at WCHB, although I think I did, come to think about it. This one is called The Turd That Hasn't Flushed. The Turd That Hasn't Flushed. You know, I wrote this in 2020. God yet hasn't pushed the lever on the traitor Trump forever. And when he does, if justice for what Trump has done and is still trying to do to our democracy were to be truly served the lever would be that of the gas chamber. And I'm not going to go into detail on that. I know some of you folks who are watching today don't believe in capital punishment. And if that's a bridge too far in your mind, let's at least put this sucker in federal prison for the rest of his natural lying, stealing, thieving,
Gosh darn him.
mendacious, evil existence. Okay, back to Kaylin Render.
Yes.
Back to Kaylin.
Great transition.
Back to Kaylin. I have another question for you, Kaylin, and this
Yes.
probably is a generic one.
Right.
And I think I know the answer to this, and I think I know what you're going to answer to this, because it'll probably be the same answer that I will give you. But why do you think this training is important, not just for the state of Michigan, but for the entire United States today?
Because I want to say that life is important. Everyone's life is important. It's time to treat black people like humans instead of animals, instead of property. I feel like in my soul and heart of heart that racism is the dumbest ideology ever.
Well, racism is a form of insanity.
Yeah.
I mean,
Homicidal insanity.
Yeah, that racism. In fact, I have a neologism for you. You know, racism is craisism. I mean, it is really a form of lunacy.
Absolutely.
We have to address it as such, like you're saying. You're crazy for
Absolutely.
being racist. It's not something to believe in. There's nothing to believe in.
Absolutely, yeah. And I also do feel like police killings, they think they're just killing a body, but every single police killing strips away trust that the community has with the police force. So then the police force looks up and say, oh my gosh, why are they attacking us? Because you're attacking the community. And you have to stop attacking the community. So
Protect and serve, protect and serve, protect and serve. Let's not forget that.
literally, yeah. So lastly, America doesn't have the best track record for being pro-life, but we can always change that. So that's why I think it's important.
Gonna do another poem. Unless you have something else to say.
No, all you.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question before
Yes.
the poem. So it's like if people wanted to get involved and look at your proposal and see what they could do, should they contact you directly, or what kind of information can we provide to people who want to get in and start organizing this on the ground level up?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
We should have asked that question.
Yeah, that's an amazing question, and to be 100% truthful, I really didn't think that far. I gave my proposal to Dr. Telford that meeting just for him to validate the idea. I didn't even think it was a doable idea. I thought it was pretty cool, right? But he took the idea and ran with it. So right now we're running.
I mean, that's a treatise, worthy of.
That's a proposal that should be presented to City Council. Once you get some people behind you, is what I'm thinking.
That's
Get
right.
some brilliant
But
young
a few
adults
of them,
behind you.
A few of them are in court or getting ready to go to court now, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, well,
That's a whole nother
That's
show.
a whole other show, and I was gonna talk about that today too, but we're not gonna have time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
So,
I'm
but
so
right now-
disappointed.
No,
that-
stop. This I just opened the door for her. She has a website. She has tons of emails.
Yeah, I
she
do.
has
Yeah.
a collection.
So
So
say
she
that.
can just
Let's
give
hear it.
her Crin collection.
What's
Yeah.
your website? What's your
Give us
website?
your
Yes, on my
Don't play,
website.
Miss Kaylin. Crin Collective.
Yeah.
Oh, you
So
really
my
have
business,
ways.
my business is called Crin Collective, and it's a faith-filled apparel company. And we do have a website, www.krencollective.com.
Say it again.
krencollective.com. So Crin Collective, that's the name. And of course, you can go to that website and contact me there. We also are on all social media platforms, so feel free to DM me, Facebook message me as well about this proposal until we have a solidified like action per se.
Okay,
Yeah.
the website one more time.
At www.krencollective.com.
So you're a Cass Tech graduate.
Yes.
You're a fashion designer.
Yes.
You're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You have a dedicated track record of service.
Yes.
And you have plans to change the police force into a relationship so that more of our own children might think about joining the force too. And infiltrating and integrating.
And a
Absolutely.
WMU graduate.
Oh,
Yeah.
of
Western
course.
Michigan.
Yes.
Beautiful campus, tough to get through. You're a warrior just like your mother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate that. I really do.
Oh, yeah, that's Lutheran territory out there, honey.
Really?
Yeah,
I
in
really
bed
do
by
appreciate
10.
Yes.
And God's child, for sure.
Yes, I really do
absolutely.
appreciate my time here, talking to you guys about the proposal. Hopefully we can, put it on the ground and get it going.
Well, I think we're going to have you back real soon to talk about
absolutely.
the next steps because we
we're
want to
gonna-
take these
we're
next
gonna
steps
do that.
with you.
Okay.
I got a couple of poems I got to finish up with too. Do I have time, boss? I got time? Okay. One of them I call Uncivil Warfare, and this was written on the 6th of January, 2021. Remember that infamous date, on the 6th of January, 2021. On this evil and fatal occasion of the Capitol building invasion, the traitor Trump's collusion demands his execution. Okay, don't be a dummy who hesitated. Hasten to get yourself vaccinated. We need immunity in our community. And you know what we've got right now? We don't have herd immunity because that's around 70-80%, and we don't have anything near that, particularly in Detroit. We've got herd stupidity. and we've got to get vaccinated, folks. So get vaccinated. Okay, that was my little 2 cents poetically.
Hate is also bad for immunity.
That's right.
Agreed.
Do you have any last words before we leave? I'm so impressed. I was so impressed with your proposal. I was so
Thank
impressed
you.
with the way you presented yourself at UCAC. I'm so glad that you have a solution that comes from the ground that isn't asking 5,000 people to change laws and make us like each other, but you actually want us to come together and meet and make this civil service incorporated back into police service. And I don't think it's a far out reaching plan. I think this is a cost effective plan, having police on pay actually enjoy themselves with the community. I would think would bring great joy to all of us.
Absolutely.
So I want to
Absolutely.
thank you because you're thinking about peace and justice at the same time.
Right. We have to lead with love. That's the biggest thing. Lead with love, and everything else will fall into place. So that's all I want to say is thank you. Thank you, thank you. And this won't be the last time you hear of me or the proposal. So any questions, please shoot them my way or Dr.
Creme
Telford's way.
Collective.
I was
Yes.
yes. Please repeat that website one more time.
Yes. www.krencollective.com. That's www.krencollective.com.
An entrepreneur who loves Detroit and who will show us the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Gloria. It's like not only the work you do, but the life you brought to us has been amazing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't expect to sit across from her, but this is
Cool.
more than I could ask for, pray for, the whole
Yeah,
nine.
this is cool.
It's been an honor.
Love
It's
you,
been
Mom.
an honor to be with you guys.
Fabulous. Love you too, boo.
And you've been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and co-host Dr. Sunanda Samatha Corrado on WJZZ Cool TV on Thursdays from 10 to 11 in the morning, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It was the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer who said Dr. John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul. Listen also to Dr. John Telford on WCHB AM 1340, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. And tune in again next Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. And thank you for listening.